From the third floor of the Murphy Center here at Iona College, this is your host, The Rock is On. I am joined here by Martino Puccio, and today we're going to talk a little NBA playoffs. We're going to preview some NBA playoff basketball, but we're only going to do, I think personally, the best matchup in the first round between the Thunder and Rockets. And you have two guys who pretty much average triple doubles. You have the triple double machine and Russell Westbrook, who set the single season record for 42 triple doubles, and then you have James Harden, who by far is having his best season statistically in his career. Now, Martino, give me your thoughts about the first round matchup or this first round matchup.
Well, I guess we'll start with the Thunder because they're the lower seed. They're the sixth seed here. Obviously, they have the lack of talent after KD left last year. There isn't really many scoring options outside of Russ. I mean, Oladipo can give you like 15 to 17 a game. Steven Adams every now and then will get you a double-double. Cantor is only good for maybe rebounding and scoring the ball off the bench. He's not a good defender at all. I think it's a real. I think the Thunder have the advantage when it comes to big men. I think they have the better big men in this matchup, but I think it's gonna come down to the twos and threes for the starting fives, and then the bench. And then I just think the Rockets just have by far a better bench. They have two top 5, 6 man of the year candidates. I mean, I guess you could take out Lou Williams now since he came over and he's not really the sixth man anymore for the Rockets after he got traded over from the Lakers. But Eric Gordon, I think he would be my choice for sixth man of the year anyways. He finally was able to stay healthy, and of course in the D'Antoni offense where James Harden's a great facilitator, he's able to get a ton of shots off, and he's made them at an incredible rate. He's got to be top 5 made in threes. You're a Rockets fan.
Well, he's definitely up there though. But my question to you is, can this Oklahoma City defense contest and defend and keep up with the Rockets' 3-point shooting? Because we all know they're the best 3-point shooting team in the league. You know, they take 40 plus shots, which is
but it's all about making them. It doesn't matter how many times you take them. I think Russ is going to keep them in every game, but I think there's going to be just runs in the game. It's a game of runs, basketball obviously, but there's going to be stretches throughout the game where I think the Rockets are just going to explode for like a 10 to 15 to 2 run. It's going to be stuff like that, and that's like Russ can't be on the floor all 48 minutes. He's gonna be shot. I know they're giving him rest. I think they gave him rest the past game. I think they played
yesterday's game.
Yes, it was yesterday. So they gave him rest. So I know they're trying to do that. But this is the playoffs at this point. Everybody's going 100%. I mean, even the Rockets players are the James Harden's going to be playing a lot more. I think what it comes down to with Harden and Westbrook is who's going to turn the ball over more. And I think Russ might be more prone to do that. I know Harden turns it over at a high rate, but at least Harden's got the scores.
Mm-hmm. Basically, what you're saying is like Harden has a complete team around him, where Westbrook, he's pretty much carrying the team on his back. Reminiscent to the early days, with Allen Iverson and the 76ers, who granted he led them to the NBA Finals, but they lost in 5 to the Shaq and Kobe Lakers.
Different conferences. Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you're trying to say, but it's even different conferences, different games. I mean, it's no disrespect to Allen Iverson or LeBron James, but those Eastern conferences were so weak. It's nothing like this is the first round matchup, like you said. These two teams would be, if they were in the East, the Rockets without a doubt would be the first seed, considering the way Cleveland's been playing this past season. But I think they're top teams. I think I could see this going to 7 games. But I could also see it going to 6. I think it's like the minimum it's going to go to 6 games. I don't see the Thunder losing in 5 or even getting swept. I don't think Russ would let that happen.
I'll go with you on that though. I think this series is going to go 6 games, but I think Houston's going to prevail because I think they just have the better team. James Harden, like I said, is having a breakout year. This is his best year statistically, and also you just got to throw in the fact that D'Antoni, granted, he never made it to the NBA Finals, but he's had success. He's made deep runs in the playoffs. We've seen it with Steve Nash, those Phoenix Sun teams with Steve Nash, Amari Stoudemire, Sean Marion. But what I'm looking forward to in this series is that in terms of like the MVP, now granted, who knows? Maybe this could be the first time where we have 2 co-MVPs or we have co-MVPs.
I don't think they're doing that. I will go ahead. Finish your thought.
Yeah,
I don't think they're going to do that.
But I'm saying you never know. It could be, but I'm not saying they will do it. But you got to look at it this way. either James Harden or Russell Westbrook's going to win the MVP, right?
Mm-hmm.
So imagine, and they usually announce the MVP first week of May,
It's during the playoffs. I'm not sure exactly when,
like around that time.
but it's always around in the playoffs. I know that for sure.
So it's like imagine like they announce like the MVP or who wins the MVP and later on in the series, and this series goes 6-7 games.
Mhm.
So you can imagine the other guy who loses the MVP is going to come out with vengeance in the 6th or 7th game. You figure.
I know what you're trying to say, but at the same time, that shouldn't be either of their goals right now. I think their goal should just worry about winning the series instead. Like James Harden came out and he kind of got. You could tell he was upset about it. It was kind of like petty comments like, "Oh, I thought this was about winning." Like James, you shouldn't care about the MVP award. Like if you're doing great enough, if you're playing well enough, and if you advance to the next round, that speaks for itself. That speaks for your team. That speaks to your accomplishments. You beat Russell Westbrook. Isn't that better than not getting the MVP? Like who cares? Say Russell gets the MVP, you don't, but you still beat him in the playoffs. I take
True.
beating the guy in the playoffs every single time. Everyone else would, because when it's all said and done, Russ might have the MVP, but he's at home and you're playing in the playoffs. So it's like, okay, who really is the MVP here? What situation would you rather be in? MVP award is nice, but at the same time, you're still in the playoffs. You're moving on to the next round.
But see, a lot of people, when it comes to the NBA, we're not trying to get off topic though, but in terms of like the NBA MVP race, people always
It's
talk
relevant
about.
in this series.
Yeah, but I'm saying like people
Yeah.
are always going to look at the statistics. Yes, you got to look at the statistics. That's the first thing, but you got to look at your overall team's performance. Because I said this, in my show on Monday. There was a good number of seasons where it felt like Kobe Bryant should have won the MVP because he had the best statistics, but his team was like the 6th, 7th seed in the West, and they would lose in the first round. Or back in the 60s, I think it was the 50s, 60s, where Wilt Chamberlain was averaging 50 points
Yeah,
and 27
Wilt never
rebounds.
really won as many championships as most people thought he should have. I mean, especially for a guy who's averaging like 50 and 25. But like that's besides the point. I think people in terms of the MVP race these days, I know they all want to give it to LeBron because they're like, "Oh, you take LeBron, oh, this is the worst team in the league." It's like, no, that's because the team's too dependent on LeBron. That's why
Exactly.
they don't do as well as they should. It's not saying LeBron is the best player in the league. He is by far. He's the best player I've ever seen. That's a fact. But at the same time, the precedent has been set a while ago that you're the best player on the team with the best record. You're the MVP. That's the way it is.
Right.
That's the way it's been. I don't think you should change it up now all of a sudden because then you have to go change up and then give MJ a couple more MVP awards because we all know MJ was robbed of a few, and we know LeBron's been robbed of a couple. I think you
Kobe.
yeah, Kobe too. And it's just like you just like think about it, but the precedent's been set. You can't really argue it anymore. I understand the LeBron arguments. I picked LeBron as MVP before the season started, but it's down to Harden and Westbrook. I think everyone knows that. I think that's the way the media is going to vote it as. I think LeBron will get some votes, but I think it's really going to go down to Harden and Westbrook, and whether or not the series has an impact on it, although I don't think it should because it's a regular season award. It shouldn't have any bearing on the playoffs in this series, but I could see how it might sway voters for sure.
Right. Now, before we wrap up, though, I want your honest opinion about something. If the Rockets do get past the Thunder,
They will.
do you think, how do you like their chances against the Spurs and Warriors in the later rounds? Now, I know you're not really fond of the Rockets because they're more of a high-scoring team, and
I don't know, it's a D'Antoni coach team. It has nothing to do with the players.
Defense,
It's
yeah.
the play style. I mean,
I get what you're getting at.
I mean,
though.
it's better long term. Like if it's a 7-game series, yeah, you got a better shot because you have multiple games to at least score at a high rate. So you could have a couple games, like Iona, for example, in the tournament. They're a high-scoring up and down team, but they only have one game to do it. One game it's too dicey with the way you play like that. So one game, you have a bad night, you're done.
Right.
In the playoffs, in the NBA playoffs at least, you got like a whole 7-game series, but at the same time, you don't have home court advantage. Home court advantage is very underrated, I believe, in the NBA, especially when you have to go like back and forth and the games are down to like game 6 or game 7, say they
Right.
go, the Rockets go with San Antonio. Do you really think they're going in there and beating beating the Spurs or the Warriors? Those are the two hardest places to play in the West for sure, and it's been that way these past few years. Do I give them a shot? Yeah, I think they could maybe go 6 or 7 games, but at the same time, when your best player is so prone to turning the ball over a lot, it's gonna hurt them. Just like it hurt James Harden a couple years ago when the Warriors won the first time. What did he? They were in the conference finals, right? He
lost
turned the
in
ball
5.
over how many times? He
So
might have turned 11 or
times.
12, right?
And I remember there was one game where I think it was the second game. The Rockets had an opportunity to win the game. They were down by 1, and Harden didn't even get a shot off because he turned the ball over.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a much better team. It's a much different team now. But
Right.
you could also
I'm saying
argue
that was then.
I know, yeah, but
Yeah.
you could also argue the Spurs and the Warriors are better than they were
Right.
2 years ago, and I do think they're both better than they were 2 years ago. Ultimately, I think the Rockets are going to win this series in 6 games.
Same here.
I think they could take on the Spurs for sure. Do I see them beating them? No, I don't think so. I really the Rockets bench is just going to have to play their A game every single night, and Harden's got to keep the turnovers to a minimum. Then I could see them beating the Spurs potentially, but ultimately, I think best case scenario, dream scenario for the Rockets is they get to the conference finals, and that's it. I don't see them.
Making
I mean,
it to the finals.
it's a gauntlet to go through San Antonio and
Right.
and the Warriors. But I think they're just missing that one more star.
Right.
I think if they had a star front court guy, then I could see it happening. But
Well,
yeah.
if you remember last year, OKC played the Spurs in the second round, and everyone picked the Spurs to beat the Thunder because no one
But
gave them a chance.
I know what you mean, but
Yeah.
it's also an outlier when you have two top 5 players in the league.
Yeah.
You still had KD and Russell
Right,
Westbrook. It was a little disrespectful to Westbrook and KD, but they didn't play that well in the regular season. But then again, how much does a regular season really matter? I think
True.
there was a statistic. LeBron James teams have been the 2 seed 5 times. They made it to the finals every time. I know it's LeBron. It's there.
Yeah.
He's a different animal than most players, obviously. But at the same time, a regular season, how much of a bearing does it really hold in the playoffs?
Well, it should be an intriguing first round matchup, and maybe even the semifinals if the Rockets do win.
Well, if the
Yeah.
Rockets win and
The
advance,
yeah.
and the Spurs win, they have to
Yeah.
play the Spurs, right? Because who's the 4 seed at this point? It's
It's either Utah or the Clippers.
They're going
Yeah,
they're
it's gonna
right down
be-
to the wire for that,
Yeah.
or
I think so.
yeah. Even then, I think that team is just going to get smacked by the Warriors. I don't like I don't like the Clippers or the Jazz at all. I think
I think if it's the Clippers, then maybe the Clippers.
beat the Warriors. No, not a chance. They haven't beaten them in like 12 or 13
Right.
regular
But you
season
know-
games.
But that's regular season. though.
But still, it's still. I mean, they beat them in the playoffs. I think that one time,
Right,
or
but
maybe they might have lost.
it
But
sh-
go ahead. Yeah,
it
gotta
should
wrap
be,
it up.
It should be an interesting first round matchup, and we're looking forward to the playoffs starting this Thursday. And that's it for our segment. I'm Rocky. He's Martino. Have a great day, everyone.